This video is sponsored by Surfshark, the best VPN on the market. Surfshark is an app or browser extension that allows you to change your location to access websites in other countries and keep you safe from hackers. For example, we here in Ireland can access other countries' Netflix libraries, streaming services such as DAZN in Spain for those all-important Premier League games. Surfshark keeps you safe and private by protecting everything you do online. When your device connects to the internet, all that information is, in a way, blurred out. Surfshark is particularly useful for keeping you safe if you use public Wi-Fi, such as a college or a cafe. Surfshark allows you to use one subscription on unlimited devices, meaning that you can even share an account with friends and family. On top of this, Surfshark offers a 30-day money-back guarantee, so if you don't like it, you can even get your money back. Our sign-up offer gives you Surfshark VPN for just over €2 per month and up to 4 months free. Why not scan the QR code on screen or use the link in the description to take advantage of this offer. What is up, my friends? How are we? I hope you've all had a lovely weekend. I mean, why wouldn't you have? Manchester City lost. Manchester United failed to win. £220 million worth of strikers, and they're still reliant on OGs. Be careful if you're out walking the dog or anything like that. I've reliably been informed by NASA that at 9:22 p.m. this evening, that penalty of Bruno Fernandes is going to re-enter the Earth's atmosphere. So be careful if you're out and about. We'll discuss Isak tonight. We'll look ahead to tomorrow's game against Newcastle, of course, which is going to be a very, very difficult game. We'll give you some words from Florian Wirtz and a couple of other interesting bits and pieces, including an update from the Arsenal injury situation with yesterday. We'll talk about Rodrygo Goes, as well, there's been mixed stories and mixed reporting on him. And most importantly, we'll try to figure out what on earth we are going to see between now and the transfer window slamming shut Monday week. I think it's fair to say we need to get some business done because we're looking a little bit light at the moment. Well, a little bit. I think I'm being generous. And while we're sticking with the Manchester United team to kick us off tonight to start, 29 games in the Premier League for Ruben Amorim in charge as Manchester United manager, 28 points. So the revolution is definitely back on and it is being televised. So tonight I hope you're all in good spirits because I certainly am. I'm nervy about tomorrow night. I'm not expecting it to be a straightforward game by any stretch of the imagination. We've seen again today that VAR isn't fit for purpose in the Premier League. Manchester United getting the benefit of VAR twice. And look, I'm not trying to say they're pro-Manchester United. I'm certainly just saying that VAR isn't very good. It was a very questionable decision for the penalty for me, because if you look behind the incident, there was a Manchester United player throwing a Fulham player to the ground, but apparently VAR didn't want to have a look at that. And then for Manchester United's goal, I think you've all seen that there was a clear shove in the back there as well on Calvin Bassey, but VAR didn't want to know about that. So yay, VAR's back. We're only, 2 weeks now into the Premier League campaign and they're already off with their shenanigans. So yes, loads to get through. Let's start off with this from Chad. How are we, sir? I hope you're well. I'm still in disbelief that we weren't planning to sign another forward with Isak. Did they really think Isak would be enough number-wise? Disappointing. Hi, Craig. Hope you're well. It's massively disappointing. Now, look, we do have to caveat everything we speak about by saying there's still time in the window, but it doesn't feel to me like the plans here are to bring in two forwards. And I've read something tonight that surely can't be true. This from Caught Offside have said that AC Milan, Atalanta, Inter, Napoli, Roma and Fulham are all interested in Chiesa. But the part I'm uncertain about, and the part that I refuse to believe is actually true, is they say that Liverpool have also offered Federico Chiesa to Newcastle as part of a deal for Isak. I can't believe that's true. That would be the height of stupidity unless they're bringing in Rodrygo. Because if you bring a forward in, move a forward out, yes, it's an upgrade, but it's certainly not adding to our depth, is it? If we got rid of Chiesa and brought in Isak, then we'd have Isak, Salah, Gakpo, Ekitike, and a young Rio Ngamoa. Still nowhere near enough, so I hope there's no truth to that one. And I also hope at this point there's absolutely no truth to the idea that Liverpool would even consider letting Chiesa go, unless, like I've mentioned, the Rodrygo stuff is true. But on that, Ian Doyle, reading some of his work earlier on, he seems to think that the situation there for Rodrygo is being agent-driven. So he said, talk of Rodrygo of Real Madrid appears agent-driven, and his reported financial package wouldn't make much sense for the Reds. And that's kind of what I've said. Stopped me from really believing that Liverpool were going to move for Rodrygo. It probably would be a very hefty package. There are some talks tonight that maybe Saudi could be an option for Rodrygo if he doesn't get a move away. I don't know if you consider that or not, but Trent, it seems, has been dropped to the bench in Madrid's game tonight. You know, take from that what you will. So that's where we're at. That's the kicking off point for this evening. Now it's over to you guys to, of course, let me know where you're at. Joe O'Neill said, City in for Gay. At this point, if we lost out on Gay, and I'm not saying we will, but if we did, it's our own fault. It just is. You know, we're at the point of the window now where I feel like we're perfectly within our rights to start to get a bit nervous. There is still a week to go, but we still have a lot of work to do. And the Konate situation, very quiet. No word on that. The last couple of days, all of the news around Liverpool Football Club with regards to transfers has been really, really quiet. So trying to figure out what's going on is difficult. And I think a load of people, maybe myself included, are putting a lot of faith in 2-3 deals getting done in this next week. But let me just say this out in front, nice and early before anything happens. If we don't get at least one forward and Gay sorted out this week, we have messed up the remainder of this transfer window. We've given ourselves work to do. We've put ourselves in this position with selling so many players. And on that, let's have a look actually at the net spendometer, because we did refresh that today. So this is how Liverpool currently look. We have brought in £321 million worth of players. As you can see, Georgia Mamardashvili, Jeremy Frimpong, Armin Petchy. Obviously, we brought in Florian Wirtz, Milos Kerkez, Ugo Ekitike, and obviously young Giovanni Leone. On the other side of it, we have recouped £227.6 million from the sales of Trent, Queeveen, Kwanzaa, Nat Phillips, Diaz, Tyler Morton, Darwin Núñez, and Ben Doak. So that leaves Liverpool with a £93.4 million net spend as we currently sit here. And if we sold Elliott to RB Leipzig, as is being discussed this week, well, that would put us to about 50 million. That's not the big window we were promised, is it? So they best get the finger out and get cracking, because you could make an argument that even with Isak coming in, it's bare bones for the amount of actual attacking players we'll need for the season. And still, no movement on Mark Gay. He's played for Crystal Palace on Thursday. He's played for Crystal Palace again today. What are we waiting for? Get moving with it, because it's a piss take at this point, and we need reinforcements in. And who thought we would have been saying this? And I know people probably like eyes off again, but honestly, I have been very patient all summer as a Liverpool fan, really happy with the business that we have done, but we can't just shrug our shoulders and ignore what we haven't done. Yes, there is still time to do it, but like I've said, feels like we're leaving a lot. I was shocked to see Pep Lijnders at City now. Had to rewind the video to double check, speaking about a way to undo your legacy. Incredible, said Victor. People don't like when I throw around the term rat, and I don't use it very often, but Pep Lijnders has very much done exactly what you've said, Victor, to me. So he's once again lied. I won't be a number 2 again, he said after Jurgen. Goes, becomes a manager, shits the bed, straight back to Pep Guardiola. Any other club, if he joined Arsenal, I wouldn't be as annoyed by it. But he has gone to the club that have underhandedly screwed us out of how many titles with their antics, and he goes there and joins Guardiola. So I'm with you, Victor. No time for him anymore, and his own ego seemingly is, well, just too big by the looks of it. And I don't want Kloppo telling me how I'm supposed to feel on this one, because I don't need to. I know how I feel. And Pep Lijnders, all that goodwill gone. John, how are we, sir? Said, hey, Craig, thought I'd let you know your buddy in the States, Tim Howard, was gushing about Manchester United. Was great last week despite the loss, only to eat his words after this match. The narrative around United is mad, John. Like, they lost last week and people tried to make out like they're back. This week, VAR helped them to get a draw, and they're still banging on about it. They're nowhere near good enough. Like, they've spent £220 million on strikers and attackers, and they had to rely on an own goal. I don't know what else to say. Ruben Amram has a big job on his hands, and that Manchester United team still doesn't look right to me, but I never expected them to be that good this season. The shouts for them to be in the Champions League places and all, I never understood. They still have a lot of work to do. And once again, what do they do at the end of the game? Harry Maguire on, pumping long balls. It's the United way, whether it's under Solskjaer, whether it's under Ruben Amorim. Doesn't seem to matter whether it's under Ten Hag. They're still terrible, and they're still pinning long balls up to him and hoping for miracles. Martin Lawrence, how are we, sir? Has the whole Isak saga has distracted the powers that be from bringing in the attackers we need? Rumours of City interest in Gay is a bit worrying. So, we're not all privy to the plan, Martin, as I'm sure you're aware. But on the outside, it feels like we have left ourselves a lot of work to do. Now, we're not the only ones. It's important that we point out we are expecting a hell of a lot of business to be done throughout the Premier League in this last week of the season. But Isak isn't in our control. So that one's always been a concern. Mark Gay, there's no reason we couldn't get that done if we wanted to. And I don't understand what is happening now. Is there an agreement with Crystal Palace that we hang off and let him play another game? Surely we couldn't let him play on Thursday and risk a potential injury, as well as still having to get the deal done. So I'm starting to get antsy, is that the word? Tetchy, because I've wanted to and tried to and have trusted the process all summer because we started so well. We understood there was going to be a time where, yes, Liverpool have to bring in some money as well. But 4 attackers, one of them not really match fit yet, and that's where we're at. Like, whatever way we want to dress this up, as we sit here right now, going to St. James's Park tomorrow to play Newcastle, we have 4 attackers and a kid. And one of the 4 attackers hasn't been match fit for a long time. Not good enough, considering numerically where we were last season. Now, of course, Darwin Núñez, we all know, was going to move on. Diaz, probably people are split on what should have happened with that one. My assumption was always that we sold these players, assuming and knowing that we had players to bring in and replace them with. But as of right now, that doesn't look like it's a certainty anyway. How are you guys feeling about it? Because, you know me, I'm a nervy person and I'm probably a little bit aggressive at times with my view on these things. But I can't help but get more and more nervous now. Because it still feels like if we have our eggs in the Isak basket, what has to change between now and whenever they sell him? Or what has to change between now and whenever we put the next bid in? Because they still haven't brought in any forwards, and we've gone all the way through the window. Anthony Elanga as a winger, but no centre forwards. And like I said yesterday, there was talk of selling Asula to Bayer Leverkusen or somewhere else. It just... And the more I've spoke to people and read up on stuff, a lot of people believe there is no plan B. It's Isak or bust. There's some narratives now starting to say the Reds will wait for Isak. So let me read out this one. As it stands, Alexander Isak has no plans to reintegrate into the Newcastle squad, said the Daily Star. The Liverpool versus Newcastle fixture has no relevance on the Isak deal, said Craig Houlden. If Newcastle had signed Ekitike or Sesko, I believe Isak would be a Liverpool player. So that narrative coming out of Newcastle is hilarious. They had the chance to move for Ekitike, and we would have moved for Isak, but they thought they were being clever, and they've shit the bed there. On the Isak situation, he has previously had a similar situation, and let me read you through it, because we're trying to figure out if Isak is bluffing, or if he's going to hold his nerve and really refuse to play for Newcastle again. So, I was reading something earlier on, and it said, when he left Borussia Dortmund for Real Sociedad, Alexander Isak made it clear that he wouldn't be returning to the Westfalenstadion, even though the Bundesliga side held a buyback clause for Isak. He said, I have no intention of going back there. All I can say is that Dortmund is in my past, not in my future. I feel very comfortable where I am and have no intention of going back there. So he seems to be a man that when he says something, he tries to honour it. So if the situation for Newcastle here is that Isak ain't going to be reintegrated and doesn't want to play again, then really what is the point for them? There is no win here, like I've always said. I have a sneaking feeling we get it done. It's not based off any inside information. It's just my gut feeling. And I do think we end up with Isak. Not certain on it. How can I be when Newcastle still haven't brought in a forward? But that's kind of where I'm at with it at the minute. Chris Smith, how are you, sir? So we can't afford to lose Elliot or Chiesa. Hopefully Isak happens, but still need a second striker. Yildiz is young, intelligent, and comes in off the left. So, for me, Chris, I spoke about this yesterday. I can understand Liverpool potentially wanting to wait for Isak. But you can't wait for Isak and lose half a season without bringing another attacker. That would just be the height of stupidity for me. I'm trying to find this. Where is it? So, Craig Hope said, my information is Isak is going nowhere. Luke Edwards earlier on said Newcastle's owners set out their position at the start of the summer, and I will stress again, the owners came up with the plan. The asking price for Isak was set at such a high level, we're talking in excess of 150 million, that it was designed to send the message he wasn't for sale. This may sound contradictory, but this is the PIF's view. We don't need to sell, we don't have to sell, we will not sell, unless somebody pays ridiculous money, well above market value, and it hasn't changed for months. He went on to say, if they alter that stance now, it will have made everything up to this point a charade. They will have buckled. I will have been told that this will not happen since March this year, again in May, and again in June and July. It's still the owner's position on August 24th. Had they signed Ekitike or Sesko, I think it might have changed, but they didn't. Howe has repeatedly said for more than a week they're trying to sign one striker now, a replacement for Callum Wilson. So, bit of a contradictory statement again there. A lot of briefings towards Newcastle journalists seem to suggest that if we had have got Ekitike or Sesko, but they had that chance when Liverpool made the bid. So Newcastle have dug this hole themselves and are still trying to bluff their way out of it. Ian Doyle, though, he still seems optimistic on it. He said Isak looks like he will come to Anfield sooner rather than later. There have certainly been signs of Newcastle's resolve weakening in recent days. Might a £130 million deal sorted out, it wouldn't be a shock. So, still some optimism from the Liverpool coverage side of this. Like I've said, though, a few other different things today speaking about Isak's position. The suspicion at St James's Park is that Newcastle are braced for a second bid from Liverpool with all the fireworks that would set off after Monday night, said the newspaper. So, again, like I've said, Newcastle sources now starting to put out there that they may have sold him if they had have gotten one of the other two, which is very, very different to, well, we want Isak and we want Ekitike. That was the plan, remember? Eddie Howe wanted to play with a 4-4-2. These lads can't keep a story straight, and it's fucking hilarious. But you know what you haven't seen written? The truth, which is Newcastle's owners and their recruitment team have absolutely shit the bed. And if they want to look and blame, look internally. Because Newcastle should have attacked this window early doors. And also, Luke Edwards' statement, and again, he's been briefed on it, that we don't need to sell. Well, bullshit. You do. PSR. Now, you mightn't have as big a PSR concern as in previous windows, but if they want to do the type of business they're talking about, PSR is still a concern for them. So, lots of holes to pick in their argument, but let's see where we go over the next few days. What's to say we don't bring anybody else in? If we don't bring anybody else in, this window has been a shit show. I don't know what else to say. I think I'm fair in saying that. I don't want to go too far with it yet, because as I said, there's still 8 days to go. But let me ask it. Let me ask the question and see if I'm overreacting to this or if you guys feel similar. Okay, so the question I'm going to ask is, if we make no more signings, is this transfer window a failure? Let me know, yes or no, to your thoughts on that one. The reason I'm going to say it is is not because of the quality we've brought in. Nobody's going to sit here and say Wirtz isn't brilliant, Kirkes isn't a good option, Georgi Mamardashvili isn't a decent backup, Frimpong isn't an experienced option. Nobody's going to moan about that. But let's look at the numbers. We heard many times last season that Arne didn't let Chiesa leave because he was adamant he wanted two in every position. Now that narrative is starting to change. We don't have two in every position. And we've left ourselves short. So for me, there's time to resolve the window and still time for it to potentially become one of, if not the best window, certainly in my lifetime. But if we don't do anything, I'm going to say it's a failure because we're still left very short. One injury up top, we're in trouble. An injury to Ryan, we're screwed. Still light at centre-back from what many of us would want. Still no clarity over the Konate contract situation. So, I know it sounds a bit doom and gloomy, but without those signings at the end of this window, the whole window to me falls apart. I can see Pierce tweet our business is done. Honestly, man, I'm going to lose my mind if our business is done. Honestly, man, I can't hide it. My frustration level's been bubbling and bubbling and bubbling over the past few days. I'm trying so hard to stay calm because I do actually believe these are very talented people, but it feels like we've painted ourselves into a corner, and yes, there is one way out of this corner, but it's not our paintbrush that's going to decide whether this is successful or not. That's the way I see it at the minute. And I should say at the minute because there is still time. Trent bench by Carvajal doesn't fit Alonso's system, said Happy Craigo. Now with the broccoli dude, now. I agree, but sure, we all knew that, didn't we, before he went over. But, he knew best. Let's have a day without Isak stories. Getting tired and sick of it all. We all know this is the hot topic, but at the minute it feels like clickbait. No. Quite simply, in answer to your question, no. You'll have many, many times not to talk about it after the 1st of September. But I don't know how you think it's clickbait. Do you understand what clickbait is? Clickbait is me bringing you in with a story and talking about something completely different or nothing to do with the title. So let me read out the stream title to you and I will again defend myself against your accusations. Isak joins or Liverpool are in trouble. Is that not true? And what's clickbaity about that? Doesn't say Isak is going to join. Doesn't say big development in the Isak story. It doesn't say you won't believe this about Isak. So again, I'm quite happy what I'm talking about. Nobody forces you to be here. If you think it's clickbaity, off you pop. But what other subject would you like us to discuss every day? Because it's, not exactly flowing with news, mate. So we got to keep up the conversation and we got to keep up the pressure as well. So no, in answer to your question. Alex said, I reckon Newcastle effing up on purpose. I just don't see how it benefits them though, Alex. Certain things in this are out of our control. No denying that. But certain things in this are also out of Newcastle's control. And if Isak really doesn't want to play again and really digs his heels in even after the window shuts, who knows? It will get messy. And like I've said, there is no winning here for Newcastle because if they have an unhappy player in an unhappy squad with much negative PR, many column inches dedicated to it, it's only going to get worse and worse and worse. And I don't know what point they're proving. All they've showed this summer to me, Alex, my man, is that they've been unable to go about their transfer business. And that's what Newcastle fans should be most concerned about, in my humble opinion. Newcastle are not invisible to losing top players. Sorry, but facts. Of course they're not. They're not a huge club. I understand their owners want to make a point and all that and show that they aren't weak, but they haven't shown that. They've shown that they are unable to do their job, which is bring players in to support their manager, which is give Eddie Howe the tools to go out there to push the club on to the next level. So for all the Newcastle fans pissing and moaning and the vitriol towards us and Isak, they should be looking internally because their whole setup is a mess. So, a big report coming out here from Defensa Central that I don't like reading, but I'm going to read it out to you anyway. Tottenham are close to agreeing a deal to get Rodrygo on loan after offering to cover his entire salary. Real Madrid believe such an offer is fair at this point in the window. It remains to be seen if Rodrygo wants the move. Now, one thing I would say here is there is a good channel of communication open between Daniel Levy and Florentino Perez. Think all the way back to the Gareth Bale situation, even when they wanted Harry Kane. So let's wait and see. But if that is a potential move for him, it's one less option for us. So if there's no Rodrygo on the table, what's left? Fofana, who's not ready for the here and now, would be another up-and-coming player, which is what we were told we weren't getting in this window. We already have a young winger in Rio Engamoa. This is why I'm starting to get a little bit concerned. Andy said, Craig, you still haven't been able to get a second source to verify. No, so I'll tell you the story at this point. I haven't been able to get the second source, Andy, no, and I should reiterate that before I move on. But I was told the other day by somebody who's told me stuff in the past that has been correct. But I always tried to get a second bit of information, see if anybody else has heard similar. And I haven't been able to do that. So I want to put that out there first and foremost. But what I was told was Konate is not going to sign the new deal. Nothing more than that. Not to say he's going to be sold now. Not to say he'll run down his contract. I still don't know on that. But what I was told was he's not going to sign the new deal. So I'd love to be wrong. I'd love that information to be wrong. But it does kind of tally with what we're seeing play out in front of us, which is an interest in Mark A, which would surely be as a replacement longer term for Konate while he still hasn't signed a new deal. So what we do, I don't know. I really don't. Like, do Liverpool bring in Gay if they can and let Konate run down his deal and leave for free? I wouldn't like to see it, but at this point, I can't sit here and moan about bodies and then, wish another player away. So it's a tricky one, and I don't know what's going to happen with it, but I do know we'll find out in at least 8 days, or in no more than 8 days. Elvis Presley says, Wirtz is down as a forward on the club's website. Don't be surprised if they say we have 6 forwards. He's a 10 for me, Wirtz, and he was brought into play as a 10. Yes, it's an attacking position, but it's not what I would view as the front line. He's behind the front line, in my opinion, in the way that we play. So when I talk about forwards, I'm talking about the 3 across the front. Your Salahs, your Gakpos, your Ekitike, your last season, your Darwins, your Diers, your Diogos. That's the front line to me. And yes, Chiesa is in that, but Chiesa, again, we're expected to believe that he'll magically, like that, get to the level of match fitness and where we need him to be. I don't know. It just feels like, again, we're expected to take many leaps of faith here. Jamie, how are you, sir? Jamie said, aside from Luke Edwards, everybody at the pro Newcastle reporters make a sweeping statement, Isak isn't for sale. Then they say, if it were to happen, I think they're just towing the club's line. They definitely are towing the club's line. And this is what I always warn about, Jamie, towards journalists. Not that they have to listen to me, but for me, you got to decide what you want in your journalistic career. Do you want to be taken seriously by the football readership? Or do you want to be an extension of the club's PR team? If you want to be an extension of the club's PR team, then you risk being made a fool of. Because the club will brief what they want out there into the media. If that doesn't come to fruition, let's use Luke Edwards as an example. If Liverpool sign Isak between now and the end of the window, he is going to look very, 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 very foolish. Why? Because he believed what he was being briefed. It's happened time and time again. It's happened with Liverpool-centric journalists as well. And I don't get it. For me, if I was in that position, credibility would come before everything. I wouldn't be able to write down things that I doubted or that I didn't believe to be the case, to put it out there into the world. For what? Appeasing a football club? Your readership, the fans, should be the top priority for me. Mark said, it's clear Newcastle are holding Isak to ransom. Why be wasting time not going for Rodrygo? If we could go on loan to Spurs, we miss out on both. For me, mate, it feels like Liverpool think they can get Isak. Now, again, we aren't privy to any potential conversations behind the scenes or anything like that. So it's a big leap of faith for us as fans. We don't know what's going on. We do know that we're sitting here with not enough players. We do know that we've brought in a load of money again this window. But like I said, if Elliott moved on and the window shut tomorrow, we'd have a net spend of about 40 or 50 million. That's not the big summer, is it? Like, realistically, it isn't. For the big summer to come to fruition now, that big Isak signing and a Mark Gay or somebody else needs to happen, or else we're stuck in cheapskate land again with FSG. And I don't want to hear fucking excuses, because remember, we had a whole year to prepare for this window. Richard Hughes was getting his feet in under the table. He's done brilliant work in this window so far. But if we don't finish the job, we've undermined our own season. That's honestly the way I see it. Righteous Gamer, how are you, sir? So Newcastle fans need to remember, players don't want to play for the riches in the Prem. They want to win cups, and Liverpool are the most successful. Well, either which way, look at it this way. Isak's on 120 grand a week. That's a number that was put out there by Newcastle-based journalists. He believes that he's been screwed out of at least a year's worth of a pay rise. Even at an extra 100 grand a week, that's 5 million quid he's down. Now they're talking about him throwing in a transfer request, which would remove another few million from his pay packet. So, yeah, they can't even pay the going rate. And they've already messed him around for a year. And he's told them that he wants to leave. And their manager has admitted it. And for me, I'd like to see if people agree with this or not. But the whole Isak situation from a Newcastle side really started to fall apart when Eddie Howe went against the narrative of why Isak was removed from the game against Celtic. That's where this seemed to snowball into a big issue for Newcastle. Eddie Howe said he removed the player because his head wasn't right because of the talk around his future. Newcastle put out that he missed the game because of a thigh injury, but he travelled up, and I think it was Joelinton at the time, didn't. Why was that? So they've made a mess of it from day one, and they've been trying to prove some macho bullshit point. They've been trying to prove a point that I don't know who they're trying to prove it to, but all they've proved is they're shit in the transfer market, that they won't be able to bring in players who view them as a potential stepping stone to bigger things, because why on earth would an agent send their player there when this shit show has happened? You know? Samuel, how are you, sir? Said, hi, Craig. Any thoughts on our lack of depth at the number 6? Graf seemed to tire at the end of the season. Is it Endo? Is it in Endo we trust? No, I absolutely do not trust in Endo. I trust in Endo as a squad player, as a rotational option occasionally. But if Ryan Gravenberch had an injury, Samuel, I think we're screwed. Because what are the options then? Maka back into the 6, Jones into the 6, players into the 6 that aren't best in that position and can't play the position the way Ryan does. So it's probably the one that I would say I've been the most relaxed about, because like I said, I didn't know whether he viewed by Cetic as that option, but Stefan hasn't had a pre-season, so now we can probably rule out that option. Endo could play there, and people will say Endo, but he can't play the role the same way, so we're having to change the way we play to facilitate that. We've sold Tyler Morton, which again I've no problem with, but you know, it's hard to make any type of perspective on it because we haven't seen Ryan this season yet, because of obviously his suspension and because of the birth of his new baby for the Community Shield. So you know, there's a lot of unanswered questions that makes me a bit more nervous about tomorrow night's game. Does he go with Robbo or Kirkes? Who's going to play right back? Are we still going to look, you know, as shaky at the back? Will the forward line click? Will Wirtz find the rhythm of the Premier League quickly? So many unanswered questions yet, which is, you know, adding to the nerves. Davino said, "Hey Craig, hope I'm not interrupting anything. Just wanted to say there's no place I'd rather be on my 26th birthday." Oh, well, happy birthday, Devon. I really appreciate you being with us, sir, and happy birthday to you over in the States. Much love. Don't know. This one said helping David out. I'm not sure who the David person was, but where is Jaden Dans? It's a good question. Any ideas? I know he's been injured. I haven't been able to find anything new out on Dans. I did promise somebody the other day that I'd look into it. I've no understanding of what's going on with him. So I think we can say there might be a loan move at the end of the window to a club. I don't know who, but I don't see him being part of Liverpool's first team makeup this season because he hasn't had a pre-season. We do know Lewis Kumas has joined Birmingham City on loan, so that's another one of our young players. He's gone there for the season, but I don't foresee him being a part of the first team at the minute, unfortunately. And I do hope he can put those injuries behind him because we all see what a talent Jaden is. VI Jokers, how are you, sir? Said, what's my score prediction tomorrow? Oh, if we show up and play the way we can, we win the game. It will be a tough opening 15-20. I hope we can score first. I think that would make a huge difference in this game. With the way the results have gone this weekend, and Arsenal winning 2 out of 2, I don't think we can afford to drop points tomorrow because we've got Arsenal coming to our gaff next weekend. That's already going to be a huge game to go into the international break on, and you don't want to go into that break off the back of a couple of frustrating, disappointing results. So, be nice to get back on track tomorrow, build on the good win against Bournemouth, and yeah, that's where I'm at. But my prediction, I feel comfortable on my 2-1, but I could see it being a 2-2 as well. So 2-1 victory is where I'm currently at. But again, the chat, feel free to let us know your thoughts on it, where you guys are at with the prediction for tomorrow's scoreline. Planet Ball said 3-2 Liverpool. Suleiman said, so it went from Gay and Leone to just Leone. Come on, can't be doing this. I don't know where we're at with that, mate. I have tried to say I've always viewed Gay and Konate's futures as being kind of intertwined. Now, what I never knew the answer to was, would we bring in Mark Gay if Konate said he isn't going to renew and let Konate run down his deal and have Gay and Konate for one season and then Konate goes? I'd hate us to do that. I'd like the squad depth, but I'd hate us to do it because the optics of letting another player go for free at the end of the season doesn't sit well with me. So at this point, I just want to know what's happening with Konate's contract. I don't think you can let it go past the end of the window without a resolution there. And I don't want to go through a season with a player who's not going to be here at the end of it and see all the same column inches written about Madrid, about Konate's future, about his choice, all the way through the window, all the way through the season. It's tiring. So, definitive decision. You should know by this point if Konate wants to sign or not. Let's be honest, the club should know. And if he doesn't, well, then we need to at least take care of our own interests, which would be going in and paying the money for Mark Gay. So, people, the question so far tonight is, and we'll leave this poll run a little bit longer, if we make no more signings in this window, is it a failure? So, vote away on that one if you could be so kind. Manx Scum, thank you for gifting 10 memberships, mate. Very kind of you indeed, and I'm sure they'll be greatly appreciated by the people in the chat. Thank you, sir. Right, where are we at? Monkstown Glass said, Chiesa last year versus this year, what's the difference? None that I can think of other than Arne saying suddenly now he's fit. So I don't know how that could have changed so much when he had the whole of last season to get fit. So I don't see what's really changed other than the narrative around his future. So as somebody pointed out last night, you didn't go on the preseason tour. Romano reported pretty extensively that he was looking for a club to move. So let's just imagine for a second that had happened. We could now be sitting here with 3 forwards and Ingamoa. So for me, for this window to be considered a success, I'd like to see Isak, Fofana and Gay this week. If we finish the week with those three, I'm a happy camper. I always felt Isak, Rodrygo and Gay was a bit fanciful and a little bit overly optimistic, but I think Isak, Fofana and Gay would be brilliant, and that would be a good depth for us. Give us time to bed in the likes of Malik Fofana. Maybe then he can get those minutes. He can switch across and get those minutes when Salah goes to the AFCON. It certainly gave us a far better base. There's one big injury up top, and again, we're screwed. So let's say Salah's at the AFCON and Gakpo has a thigh injury as an example. We're screwed. And I don't want to hear, well, X and Y can play in this position. Because again, let's talk about the narrative before the window, which was that we didn't have to do those things anymore. There wasn't going to be a drop-off. We weren't putting square pegs in round holes. And I know I can be a little bit moany at times, but I really feel there's a reason to be at this point, unless we pull it out of the bag in the last week. But the problem is, if we don't, we've no time to do anything other than go, shit. There's no, as fans, we can't react to it. You know, we just get frustrated and that's it then till January. And then you'll see the usual articles written about potential free transfers between now and the time the next window opens. John Joe, how are we, sir? Said, my brain keeps thinking 6-0 Ekitike hat-trick. Oh, dude. If we whoop them tomorrow in any way, shape or form, on any scoreline, even 3-4, oh, wow. That would be incredible. I'd be buzzing going into the Arsenal game. But yeah, I can't see it, mate. I can't see a hammering tomorrow. I don't think, with the adrenaline that's going to be running through those Newcastle players and the fans behind them, I can't see that happening. Donna and Shane Bain, how are we? Said, if we don't get at least Gay and a forward, we're screwed. So, what if, though, Donna and Shane and chat, what if we all woke up tomorrow and we got a definitive, we're not signing Mark Gay, but here's a Konate extension? Because for me, that would be great. I can understand people still wanting a fifth centre-back. We've always had this conversation and, you know, I've always understood that perspective. But I just want certainty over the future. So if Konate signed a new deal, brilliant. I'd say, right, hopefully his head's screwed back on. Hopefully he's focused and we can get back. Bring in Leone, have Gomez, happy days. But not knowing what's going on with Konate just makes me feel that Mark Gay is essential at this point. Thomas Graham, thank you, sir. Appreciate you. I don't understand, though, what the delay is with Mark Gay. Because it better not be about money. It better not be trying to save £5 million by making Arsenal play the first 2 games without enough bodies. If it's over £5 million or something, that's a piss take. Can we do a poll tomorrow on how many red cards, said Craig Bowen? I hope none. I'm not going to lie, I do fear a few tasty challenges flying in early doors. I'm going to be very interested to see how the referee handles this occasion tomorrow as well. Right, so let's get the results of this poll then. We asked, if we make no more signings in this window, is it a failure? Do you know what? Actually, I'm going to leave it a little bit longer because we're nearly at 3,000 votes. So if you haven't voted, please do. I don't see how anybody could vote no. I really don't. How you couldn't say it's a failure if we end up with 4 forwards and a youngster and an unsigned Konate. I don't see how anybody could think this window's been a success. It doesn't mean you don't think the players we've signed are good, because clearly they are. But that's not the question here. The question is, overall, have we done enough in the window to call it a success? Absolutely not at this point. Not with the amount of players we've let go as well. We don't have the depth. And we can't be told 1 minute Arne wants 2 players in every position and then told the next minute that he doesn't. That's just coping. That's just, again, changing the narrative. Not good enough. Where was I at? This one from AJD. Rodrygo starting for Madrid tonight. Maybe a sign he's going nowhere. Thoughts? Or excuse me, he's not going anywhere. Might be a chance, yeah. Might be a chance that Alonso wants to give him a chance either to win him over or to prove a point that he's not going to make a difference. There's been a lot of players that are talking about moves that are still playing. That does make me a bit nervous. Like I said, though, tonight the news coming out from Defensa Central was that Spurs are close to agreeing a loan deal for Rodrygo. Yeah, so that's where we're at here now. And hopefully, fingers crossed, by the way, the connection tonight and the internet stays. We got a couple of new Ethernet cables earlier on today. And we ran a few tests earlier on to make sure that it was stable. And fingers crossed, so far we've no dropped frames yet. So keep your fingers crossed for me. Ogie Bogey said, do you think Liverpool could win the Champions League if we get Isak, Fofana and Gay? Of course. So, weirdly, mate, I'd probably feel more comfortable in our chances of the Champions League as things sit than the Prem. You know, you need massive consistency for the Premier League over the course of a long 38-game season. Champions League, you know, I've seen Liverpool win that before with nowhere near as deep squads, but, you know, good performances, you know, first 11 out most of the time. So, yeah, it's possible. But if we don't get signings this week, I'll never throw in the towel, but my belief of us retaining the Premier League would be at an all-time low if we don't get more signings in. I just can't see the depth over the season. Nearly there with the vote, folks. Any suggestions for the next poll you guys would like, by the way, do fire them into the chat and I'll try my best to get them up for you. Sam Williams said, I honestly don't know what's with the weight on Gay. I have no clue, dude. Like, the only thing I can think of, like I said, is try to save a few million quid. Or that Palace want to keep him as late as possible to try to give them some chance to bring somebody in as well. So, you know, I do get Oliver Glasner's point. Like, he must be sitting at this thinking, I've just lost Eze. I could lose Mark Gay. Like, what on earth is happening? And they haven't brought in a centre-back either. So what I'm saying, this week is going to be a really busy week in the transfer window. And I think it's going to be manic. I really, really do. Four more votes to go. And we're at 3,000. Right, we've got there. So, 60% of people feel that if we don't get any more signings between now and the end of the window is a failure. 40% of people said it isn't. I don't understand the 40%. You know, it's not saying we haven't done good business that we have, but we haven't done enough of it. And again, look at the numbers. They don't lie. Squad depth at the minute, up front, Salah, Gakpo, Ekitike, then an unfit Chiesa and a 16-year-old who the manager has admitted doesn't feel like is ready to turn to in these big moments yet. That's not good enough. That is not good enough for having a year to plan for the window to leave ourselves with this predicament. Because remember, we've had these conversations all summer and we've spoken about what you guys expect, what you guys think may happen. And even as early as a week ago, 3 signings were what people were calling for. We've done polls on it all the way through the summer, asking what you think on this, how many do you think here? And 3 signings is what you've said. Dark Melon said 40% here, failure is too harsh, underwhelming, yes, failure, no. The word failure is pretty straightforward for me. You know, it's either been a success or it hasn't. So I could have worded it the other way and said, has it been a success? But it has been a failure. And here's why I think it's been a failure, Dark Menon. We've done it to ourselves. We've sold off players without seemingly having replacements lined up. I just don't understand how anybody could say it isn't a failure. And it's a big if, of course, because there's still time. But one injury and we're fucked. And that's putting it lightly. There was a world just before there where we couldn't sign anybody and we let players go. Yeah, but that's not now. Let's remember what we were told going into the summer, because I think it's important we refresh this conversation. We were told that Liverpool were to put together a squad that was going to strike the fear of God into Europe, would be able to challenge and compete depth-wise and starting 11-wise in every competition for the season, and we had saved money from previous windows to have the money to have the huge window. And as we sit here now, this huge window is 93 million quid net spend. That isn't, I have scrimped and saved for 2 windows or a year. I have done nothing while I've been lining up deals. That isn't a number that gives us the outcome of a great window. It just isn't. Now, there is time for it to be resolved. Like I've said, this isn't over yet. But this is why I'm so adamant that without these signing or 2 extra, we've made a mess of the window. Right, anyway, some more comments to go through. Mark said, surely 120 million plus Elliott gets us Isak. I've personally, and again, this is just me, mate, I've not seen anything really linking Elliott to Newcastle. I know there was interest from Eddie Howe previously in him, all right, but it seems like at the moment, based off the reporting, the most likely destination for Harvey Elliott is still RB Leipzig. Yeah, so this piece here from Sports Mold said Liverpool are reportedly finalising talks with RB Leipzig to sell Harvey Elliott before the end of the summer transfer window. It's a move that has sparked debate amongst fans given Elliott's potential and Liverpool's reduced depth in attack. So, various outlets reporting we're still looking to sell Elliott. So, and remember, it's not because we want rid of Elliott, it was because Elliott wanted more game time. So there's still a world where he leaves. And then we're down to 40 million net spend or 46 million net spend. And another option gone. So why do we keep letting these players go without replacing them? We've brought in, and I'm going to say it again, 1 attacker. If you want to call Wirtz a forward, that's up to you, fair enough. I call him an attacking mid or a number 10. But 1 is what we've brought in. Ugo Ekitike. Thomas said, do you think PSR is fair on clubs like Newcastle? Of course I do. It's the rules that everybody signed up for. This argument from the likes of Villa fans and Newcastle fans, cry arson about cartels and big sixes. Let's remember why it was brought in. To protect Premier League clubs from spending money they haven't got. Now, is it perfect? Absolutely not. It does seem to have led to a world where selling academy products is the way to get out of the hole because they're all profit. So I do understand it's a system that isn't perfect, but it's the system. It's the rules. I don't want a league where owners can come in and do what they want, where it becomes a pissing contest and a PR exercise for countries. That's absolute nonsense. So if the clubs want to build to get to this point, they know what to do. It's just cry arson because they can't do it overnight. That's it. They want success. They want it now. And look at this. The owners of the Newcastle, the PIF. They've gone into other sports and they've been able to do what they pretty much want. Boxing, been able to take it over. Golf, been able to get their way in there. With FIFA, they've certainly found a way in with Gianni Infantino. But with the Premier League, they haven't been able to just come in and throw money at the problem because of PSR. So for me, while it ain't perfect, I do think it's at least there. And it's the rules. And I'd rather see clubs like Newcastle and Villa have angry fans because they can't spend what they want, rather than see those fans have no club, which we've seen happen, unfortunately, to others in the past. I don't want clubs disappearing because these type of owners maybe get bored of the project, move on elsewhere, sell up all the valuable players and take the money and piss off. It's happened in Europe and many other leagues. I don't want it to happen to the Prem. John Joe said, I mean, Newcastle are going to be hyped up with everything. I think a red card or 2 could make 6-0 possible. I'm just hoping for no injuries, John Joe, going into the game. You know, whatever happens on the red card front, I'm just definitely hoping for no injuries. That's one thing we can't take. And then we've got 2 weeks of worrying about them for the international break while they're off with their teams as well. Asantino said, just sell Konate now. Well, I would. I would buy Gay and sell Konate now if Konate won't sign a new deal. But I don't know where the club's head are at with it, mate. I really don't. Doesn't seem... like at this point, what would there be we couldn't have said to Konate at this point to change his mind or to get the contract signed? I don't know. But I do know that we're still here now, knowing he's into the last year, knowing for a whole year that this position was going to happen. So for me, all I can assume is the club don't want to get to the number he wants. He isn't budging off the number he wants. And we haven't found a resolution. It shouldn't take too long for the club to decide, right, we ain't getting to this number. He ain't budging. Something has to give. And I don't want us to lose another player for free. Not in their prime. It's not a good look for the club. So for me, if he won't sign, sell him or bring in Gay and bench him. One or the other. Sorry, I just want to catch back up. That one. This one from Jared. How are we, Jared? Thank you, mate. I hope you're well. Said, don't think we let Nunes and Diaz leave without a guarantee of another striker coming in. Love the content over the years. Gets me through the week. Thank you, mate. Look, I have to believe the same, Jared. I have to believe exactly what you've said. That we don't let these players go. Whatever about Darwin. Like, we knew Darwin was going to go. And obviously the club didn't foresee what was going to happen with Diogo. But it's the Diaz sale that really puts the whole situation into perspective, I guess. You know, it was good money for Luis Diaz. It was. And apparently Liverpool didn't want to give him a new deal. But we still agreed to sell him when we didn't have to. So like your good self, Jared, I can only assume, mate, that they believe firmly that we're getting a player in. And surely that player's got to be Isak. But they must know something we don't know. Because at the moment, there's certainly no glaringly obvious signs. Like if Newcastle had brought in a couple of players now and they were still with the we're not selling Isak, I wouldn't be buying it. But they've done nothing. So I guess it'll come down to how seriously they think the I'm not playing for you again stance is from Isak. Joel Jorgensen, how are we, sir? Thank you so much, mate, for being a member with us for 14 months. Said, I have faith, any chance it's not Isak and Gay. So, truth is, Joel, I don't know. But if it isn't Isak or Gay, why the delay? You know what I mean? That's what I can't get my head around. I can understand us waiting if you get Isak and it's a last minute thing. Totally do get that. But for the Mark Gay one in particular, it just feels weird. Like, why not go get him? Steve Paris has pretty much admitted he can't let him leave for nothing. So, at what point do you at least put a bid in and start the process? Because if it isn't him and it isn't Isak, I honestly can't look around and see who else it's going to be at this point. VI Joker said, I think we will get Gay and Isak done, or the owners will look foolish, but be interesting to see what happens, fingers crossed. So yeah, like I said, get those two in. This is a good window. You know, a very good window. It's not the perfect window, but it's a damn good window. And it would be massive success for me if you got Isak and Gay in. I'd be more than happy. Would like still another young forward if I'm being greedy about it. But at least I could look at that and think, right, look at these options. Salah, Isak, Ekitike, Gakpo, Chiesa, young Rio. I could get behind that. So, yeah, it's still possible. Absolutely possible. But, I wouldn't like to play poker with Hughes and Edwards because it's squeaky bum time. Tobias said, would you rather get Gay or keep Konate? So this is a question, Tobias, I've wrestled with for the last month. And I think we talked about it yesterday, if I remember correctly, and memory isn't great sometimes. I'd probably come down on the side of Mark Gay, just about. But I'm absolutely happy with either. Konate's been a good servant to our club. And I've always had some concerns about certain aspects of the way he plays. But ultimately, he's been a good partner for Virgil. and we've won a league there with him. So be unfair of me not to say I'd be happy if he signed a new deal. I would. But something about Mark Gay's composure just really struck me when we played against them. And when I hear him speak, and when I see him out there on the pitch, and in the Community Shield, I think he was the best centre-back out there on the park. So I probably would say Mark Gay. And it would also give us that boost as well of another homegrown player in the squad. But let's ask the chat, because it's a really good question, and it's one that I like I said, I admit I've wrestled with over the course of the summer. So, one sec, I'll just type this out. Right, so let's go Konate first. And Gay. Right, so who would you want if we could only have one? Konate or Gay? And we'll revisit that in a while. This one, Mangscum, said Konate should have been given 2-week deadline to sign or be sold, as you read out a month ago. Get Gay in and put pressure on Konate, put him up for sale. No time left now to complete this, sadly. Trent all over again. I come across as really harsh and cold maybe on occasion about these type of things. But, you know, we've all been around long enough and seen how these things have panned out a lot of the time. And there hasn't been many times where we've let this shit drag out and it's got a really good ending, apart from Virgil and Mo, who we knew wanted to stay anyway. That was never in question. The only question was, would the club give them the money they wanted? And they did in the end. But every other time, it's usually, in my opinion, ended with the player not signing that new deal. And I don't see a logical reason why, after all these conversations with Konate back and forth, where the club wouldn't know where his head's at and where they're at. So it doesn't point to a contract extension to me, but I'm not saying it with any degree of inside information. Would I take Vinny Jr. at Liverpool? No, I wouldn't. He just moans too much like Fernandes. Like Bruno, no, I wouldn't. He's a very talented footballer, Vinny Jr. Of course he is. There's no denying that. But no, I wouldn't want him at Liverpool. I couldn't put up with the play acting and the moaning. John Joe, thank you, sir. Said, I'm praying for no injuries also, but I think there's going to be some dirty challenges, kind of like the old day Merseyside derbies. What's the deal with Rodrygo and Isak? So, on Isak, like I've said, mixed reporting. Seems to be still some confidence from some of the Liverpool media and their side on it. Again, some kind of rewriting of history from some of the Newcastle accounts. You know, this narrative in the last few days of, if we had have gotten Ekitike, Liverpool could have maybe had Isak. That's not what happened though, is it? That option was put in front of Newcastle. We bid for Isak before we signed Ekitike. Everybody and their dog knew that if we didn't get Isak, what was going to happen. I said it multiple times. I'm sure every other Liverpool fan channel, publication, podcast said the same thing. If we can't get Isak, we're going to go get Ekitike. So this narrative now that we fucked ourselves by signing Ekitike is just nonsense from the Newcastle side. They thought they were being clever. And they shit the bed with Ekitike. They shit the bed with Sesko, Delap, Cunha, Mbeumo, and many, many, many other players that they've looked at. But yeah, it's everybody else's fault. So, and on the other one, mate, on Rodrygo, again, some mixed reporting. So, this piece here from Defensa Central said, Real Madrid would be willing to sell Rodrygo for 110 million euro. Liverpool and other Premier League clubs have been linked with the winger, but they say they would have to act quickly, as it's also claimed that the Saudi Pro League are eyeing a move for the Brazilian to join them. Now, I have no idea if Rodrygo's any interest in going to play in the Saudi Pro League or not. Marca have said something a little bit different tonight. They say the message from inside Real Madrid is that no player has indicated to the club that they want to leave. That's been the case all summer. but Rodrygo is amongst the few who Madrid would be open to selling if an offer came in. Yeah, they say been linked with Liverpool, Arsenal, Manchester City, but no approaches have been made directly to the club. Then tonight we had the story come out, again from Defensa Central, to say Spurs are close to agreeing a loan deal with Real Madrid for Rodrygo, and they'd cover his entire wages. So that's kind of where we're at with that one, mate. I want to move on to some quotes from Florian Wirtz, if I can, before we move on a little bit further. He's been speaking about how did Arne Slot convince him to join Liverpool Football Club. And he said, the discussions with Arne were very, very good from the very beginning. He won me over from the first meeting. He gave me clear ideas and a clear vision of how he could and wanted to use me in his team. So that kind of, to me, dispels this myth of I will play off the left or he could be a left forward. He was pitched a 10 role. We all know that because it was written about extensively. He was promised to come in and play in that number 10 role. So if that's what was sold to him, then we need to sort out the other areas to make sure that that's his position. He spoke a little bit as well about hearing Liverpool fans sing "You'll Never Walk Alone." He said, I felt it in my entire body that it was something special when you were standing in the middle of the stadium and the whole stadium was singing the song. It gave you a little extra energy before the game. So some nice words there from Flo. Maddie, how are you, sir? Said, if Newcastle ever get their way, I can see the Super League being revisited again because Newcastle would be Chelsea and City on steroids. The EPL would be ruined. It would, Maddie. It'd be absolutely ruined. It would just turn into a pissing contest for countries. Who's got the most wealth? That's all it would be about. And I know when you're owned by one of these countries, funds, whatever you want to call it, yeah, it's probably great thinking never-ending riches and all. But like I said, I've been around long enough that I've seen oligarchs and others get bored, sell up, asset strip, move on. So I agree with you, mate. I don't want free-for-all with money. It just leads to problems and ruin. And I've always said I don't agree with countries owning football clubs because they've got an entire nation's GDP to compete against what businessmen and women who want to run their clubs as businesses, not as a geopolitical travel destination exercise or PR exercise, which is what it is. And we all think, oh my God, 3, 4, 5 billion. But countries could lose that money like that and not bat an eyelid. So yeah, I'm with you, mate. I've never liked the idea of it, and I don't want it to become a rich person's pissing contest. Now, some people might say, hang on a minute, it's already that way. I'm not saying the system's perfect, it isn't. But we can't always just blow up the system to go again because one aspect like PSR or something that they don't like. Work within the rules and change it. Chris Smith, how are you, dude? Said, I don't like watching Slot's interviews when he says he's more than happy with our squad. He should do the opposite and put pressure on the owners. So I understand the double speak sometimes, you know, when he doesn't want to make his own squad look insufficient. And I always expect that a manager won't publicly come out and start having a pop at the owners. I'm sure behind the scenes, I hope that he is saying, look, I need this, this, and this. But again, we can't rewrite history. And the journalists and the media can't tell us a different story than the one that we were told before the window. We were told, you can go back and search this yourself, that the reason Chiesa wasn't sold at last season was because the club were told by Arne that he had to have 6 forwards. Go Google it, research it, look it up. That was put out there into the world by journalists with their sources. So now why would he be okay, and are we okay, with 4 and a kid? And one of the 4 is somebody who has no minutes last year and isn't match fit yet. So we've really got 3.5. That's not good enough. That's not deep enough. We need to start being fair and hold these people to account again. Pressure. This week, we've 1 week to sort all this out that they've had a year to plan for. 1 week. Florin said, hey Craig, how are you doing in FPL? I haven't checked. I was 1 point above the average last week, so pretty much exactly where I usually am. But I haven't checked this week's at all, Flora, I haven't had a look at it yet. Stephen Oglesby said, I believe the owners are delaying to build up the suspense and then get all the business done in the last 72 hours to freak us all out. Hope you and the family are doing well. Look, dude, I'd love that. You know, I still want the good end to the window. I still want to be sitting here with you guys 7:05 on September the 1st going, wow, we've done it. We had the window. Because the difference between a net spend of like 60 or 50, if we don't get Isak or Gay, to maybe a net spend of 180, 200 million and having enough players, yeah, it's huge. And it's still possible. So for all the doom and gloom and me talking about the worst case scenario, it absolutely is still possible that we get the good end to this window and we're all delighted and optimistic for the remainder of the campaign. But the one thing I would say is that you can't get back the games that have already been played. So tomorrow we'll play our second game in the league. And against Arsenal, I would dare to say that any new signings probably won't be bedded in and playing by that point. So we've gone into the first 3 games of the new season with an under-resourced squad. The Cop Father said FSG have done deals in the last days before Thiago and Jota RIP, same day, remember? Absolutely. Like, I've tried to be upfront on that and say, I agree. And I'm not certainly saying this is all doom and gloom. But again, we're in a big leap of faith here, aren't we? That this last window is going to be what we hope. And I hope it is. God, I really, really do, mate. I want to be sitting here buzzing with you guys on the 1st of September, really optimistic about what's ahead of us. Because if we get in Isak and Gay, bring it on. Bring it on. I won't fear anybody. I would feel like we've got the best squad. I would feel like we will have enough to be consistent over the season. And I'll be buzzing for it, really. But I'd be a liar. And the one thing I promise you guys I'd never do is lie to you. I'd be a liar if I said I'd be happy if the window closed tomorrow with what we have. We'd be nowhere near built up enough for my liking. David, how are you, dude? I hope you're well. I hope you have a lovely weekend. I hope you're all having a lovely weekend, wherever it is you're doing, wherever in the world you are. I appreciate you coming in having a chat with me. It makes the highlight of my evening, so thank you all for coming in again. One thing, I love when you guys submit your player ratings, because I love to compare them and contrast them with mine. If you haven't signed up yet to the WhatsApp, do scan that QR code there on the screen, because Connor posting the link tomorrow. And also, we may have a job opening at Anfield Agenda. So, at the moment, our Anfield Agenda team is myself, Connor, and Matt. Matt does some social media for us, and Matt does the days when Connor's off for thumbnails and graphic design and stuff like that. Matt is going to go back to college to get his PhD, so we'll be losing Matt. So we will have a space, if anybody's watching, and they feel that they know Liverpool's Twitter well enough that they could do that well. They're maybe good enough at thumbnails and graphic design that they could help Connor out. And Connor will be, I think, posting about a space, because I leave this to Connor because it's his department. But we will have an opening at Anfield Agenda for a paid role if you think it's something that would work for you. Keep an eye out on our socials. Ming Ho said, huge fan, bro. Thank you, sir. Really appreciate that. Said, I'm sure last year Konate said in an interview, I die for this team. He did. He did, mate. I remember the interview. Now, look, I have no issues with Konate personally. I'm not sitting here beefing with Ibu Konate. I'm just concerned that we haven't got that deal sorted out yet. Funny how things change quickly. It is. As football fans, we always want to think and believe the best of everybody that puts on a Liverpool shirt. Same with Newcastle and Isak. I mean, for the 3 years he was there, Newcastle fans idolised him. He loved them and it was a great fit until it wasn't. And football's the same. Konate has been brilliant at Liverpool Football Club. We've all enjoyed him. He seems like a lovely fella, brings a great positive energy around the club, always smiling, always making jokes, and I'm sure he's great in the dressing room. I'm sure the lads love him. But if he doesn't want to be here, we need to front up to that and be honest about it as well. So if he doesn't see his future with us, and like I said, sometimes it isn't I want to do anything underhanded. Sometimes it's a case of, look, I have one career and I want to play in the Bundesliga. I want to play in the Premier League. I want to play in La Liga. I get it. I have no problem with that. But be upfront and talk to the fans honestly and say, look, this is why I'm leaning in this direction. And then we can go from there. Trent didn't do that, and that's what stung me most about it, was this bullshit pretense that we all had to pretend that he hadn't made his mind up. We knew he had. We knew he was learning Spanish. We knew it all. But again, we had to play nicey nice. We couldn't be honest and say he's leading us down the garden path, which he clearly was. N said, Craig, you do realise the contacts are only in a mess because we didn't have a sporting director. It won't happen again with Hughes. Will you stop going on about Ebu? Go fuck yourself. Who the fuck are you to talk down to me? Craig, do you not realise? I don't care if we had a sporting director or not. We've seen too many players go. We've seen too many contracts not being renewed. And excuses are just that. Excuses. Not good enough. And who said Ebu couldn't go V1s next summer? I never fucking once said anything to the contrary. So piss off, stop getting your knickers in a twist with me, and start your own channel and give your opinion. But don't dare come in and talk down to me on my own fucking channel as if I'm some idiot who's had a pop at you. Arseholes. Sorry, bear with me one sec, folks. Gobshy. Sorry, let's get back to the chat. Like, ultimately, whether we had a sporting director or not, still a shit show. And I don't know if you're aware of this, dum-dum, but Richard Hughes has been in the fucking job for a year. A year. So, what happened in that year that he couldn't get Konate's contract sorted out, dickhead? Huh? Where's your fucking smart arse answers now when the facts are being put out in front of you? We had a year to sort this out and we haven't. That's a failure. Whichever way you want to dress it up, it's a failure. We're either extremely naive, weak, or messed. But it's a failure because we're still here in the summer at the end of the window talking about whether he'd sign a new deal or not. A year into Edwards and Hughes' reign at the club. A year. And it's not like they were very busy over that year, is it? Hardly signing a load of players, were we? Where are we at? Give your daughter the job. No, she's not up to she wouldn't know where to go for Liverpool news or anything, mate. So it wouldn't be a worker, unfortunately, on that one. I'd love to her, but no, we need somebody that knows the Liverpool landscape, knows where to look for the news, and she's not a graphic designer either, unfortunately. David said, so they didn't have all last season to get Konate's contract sorted. David, look, I'm going to be blunt, mate. Our friend there a moment ago was another know-all that knows fuck all. He was another person that thinks he's more clever than he actually is. And like you've said, it took me, 10 seconds to pick holes in a stupid argument? Because there was no argument. What happened there was, dickhead wanted to come in and have a pop at me and undermine me to try and make his point. But unfortunately for him, he doesn't have the facts on his side. As you said correctly, David, we had a whole year where they did nothing in the transfer market and we could have got Konate's contract sorted out. So for me, what your man said is just excuses. And excuses aren't good enough at this level. Michael Dunstan said, Craig, I love it when you tell it straight. It's your channel and we're here to support you. Call out whatever you need to. We have your best interests at heart. I know, mate, and I'm around it this long enough that I can see the people who disguise it with some nicety and then get to their actual point, which is, I don't like you, Craig, and I'm going to come in and undermine it. Because like you've pointed out, like David's pointed out, we've had a year to get Konate's contract sorted. And we've seen the situation with Trent develop, and we were naive about that at best. We've seen other players go on free contracts at the club. We've seen Mane go for a small amount of money. Firmino go for free. So, yeah, it hasn't really worked out well for us. And like I said, I can't remember too many players that got the extensions in the end that didn't want to stay and we knew didn't want to stay. Like Mo and Virgil came out multiple times and said they want to stay. And also, it's not like Michael Edwards has been buying up multiple clubs either. You know, his role was supposed to be coming to turn us into a multi-club model. And as of yet, FSG haven't bought another club. So I'd love one of these jobs where I can sit around for a whole year and not do much. Be great, especially on the money they're on. But to be fair to them, we've attacked the window well at the start, and there is still time to put it right. But it's just getting a bit nervy for me as a fan at the minute. Hoarder said, if we don't get Gay and Isak, we won't win the Premier League title. I feel that way as well. I think if we don't get... we don't need to get Gay if Konate extends. So I'm okay with that. I just need a Konate extension or Gay signed. And Isak brought in. If we don't get Isak, I just don't see us having the firepower this season to win the league. I don't think that's been overly dramatic. Again, let's just look at the numbers. Salah, who's missing for 6. Chiesa, who ain't match fit. Gakpo, Ekitike, and a kid. That's not enough depth across 4 competitions. The Cop Father said, what I like about you, Craig, is you're who you are. No sugarcoating it, just who you are. Like I've said many times, my friend, if somebody comes in and disagrees with me in a respectful way, I'll sit here and debate and go back and forth. No problem. It'd be a pleasure. I love it. I love debating football with people. But I will not ever put up with somebody being an arsehole. I deserve better. The good people in our community deserve better. And we've been this way from day one. We only want people in our community that want to be here, that enjoy interacting with us. And you don't have to agree with me. I've shown many times I disagree with people and I can do it respectfully. But respect has to be given. I will respond however the initial approach is made. If that approach is made respectfully, I think I've proved many times I'll be respectful back. But if it ain't, I don't have the patience to put up with people who are being an arsehole. Don't need it. I've had enough of it in my life. And again, look at the week I've had with those emails that have been sent in and that stuff written about my son, the threats made against my family and my shows. You know, I still come on, smile, try to be polite at a time where really I'm pretty angry over those emails. So, Ming Ho. I feel really weird saying that name, by the way. Realistically, what stops us getting Isak, Gay, Rodrygo? Also watched Liverpool versus Bournemouth. My first game at Anfield. Nice, mate. 6 goals. Not too shabby. And it was a beautiful atmosphere. And the night was also insane. Oh, Liverpool's a great city for a night out, mate. Really good city. Good city to go and have some dinner in as well. Yeah, you got a bit of everything in that one now that I think about it. So you had the new signings on the pitch. You got us racing into a 2-goal lead. You had them pulling it back, and then you had the late Liverpool win. Pretty good. First trip. I think my first trip to Anfield was a 1-0 against Oldham. I think Ian Rush scored it, if my memory's right. So yeah, nice one on that one, mate. That's a pretty good trip, and glad it went well for you. David said, I hope Joelinton gets a red tomorrow. I'd rather somebody got a red for stopping a denial of a goal scoring opportunity than a vicious challenge or something. I don't want anybody picking up an injury or a knock. Nor do I believe, by the way, that Newcastle players are going to set out to do it. I never once would think that of a professional footballer. Except for Keane and Haaland. That was pretty, you know. Tipsy Dipsy said, we're too nice in a transfer window. It shows. Look, I feel like there's a plan that we'll see in the next week. I really, for all my fear, I do believe will come good. And like a lot of people have said, I fail to see that we let all these players go without players ready to come in. So I do think something's going to happen. And I'm excited but nervous to see how it pans out. Pasky said, missing a DM, left wing replacement, number 9, in my opinion. Even with Leone, we still need another centre-back. It's really not looking good. So let's look at the centre-back situation for a second. I want to be fair and what I've said over the summer to what has actually happened. So when we sold Kwanzaa, the plan was, and to be fair, it was extensively written, so I'm not going to be a hypocrite. Liverpool wanted to bring in a young centre-back that they believe was going to become a huge player. They were unsure about Kwanzaa, which is why they sold him, but did put the buyback clause in. So Leone coming in seems like pretty much what we were told. So to be fair on that one, Kwanzaa out, Leone in, I think that's more than fair. I guess the question comes with, do we think Gomez is going to be able to reliably give us depth across the season? And to anybody that says no to that, I totally understand why they'd say no to it. If anybody says yes to it, I can understand that as well. Because as a player, Joe's really good. Very good, very versatile, can play right across the back line, and has been a great loyal servant to our football club. Then you look at Konate, and that's the one that holds the key to this window for me. Is Konate going to be able to give it all every week? Does he want to be here? And if the answer of whether he wants to be here is no, then I don't care what Arne, Jurgen, or anybody else said. I don't believe that human nature is such that a player will give 100% knowing their future is not the club. I refuse to believe that. They'll be professional, they'll train, they'll show up. But will they put their body through pain? Will they put themselves in harm's way? I don't know. Not if you've got a big move on the horizon. Not in a World Cup season as well. I struggle to think mentally somebody would do that. So this is why I've always said, if we can't get an extension from Konate, we need to look after our own interests. And that would be best served by bringing in Mark A. Unless Ibu signs a new deal. Corbin said, keep being you, Craig. Love tuning in. Great work. Oh, dude, do you know what's made me really sad this week? So I mentioned about the emails that we'd received, and the only way that I could really deal with those emails in an immediate sense was to sign out of all our company accounts. So I'm not on our social media. I'm not on emails anymore. And unfortunately now, more barriers are being put up between me and you. And I hate that. I hate that it's come to that. I want to be approachable and reachable and interactive and answer anything you have, whether it's on email, whether it's on a stream, whether it's in person. I want to be a normal person, approachable to everyone. But I can't be. And it's made me really sad. Because I've had some great email correspondence with people over the years. And 99.9% of those emails have always been lovely. People have helped me out. People have reached out with questions. And I always try to respond to as many as I can. So as I signed out of these accounts the other night, I genuinely felt sad. Because it was the end of an almost innocent era in what I was doing. Because the channel has grown. It's getting more attention. And with good attention also comes bad attention. So now this is my only interaction with people on the Discord group. And that makes me a bit sad. Because I love chatting with you all. But I got to protect my own mental health and my own well-being as well. So to sign out of those accounts made me really sad, but I feel like it's the only thing I can do. Hoarder, thank you, sir. Appreciate you as always. Love you and the fam. I love to you and I hope the fam are well. Thank you, sir. Fam's good. My little dude starts secondary school tomorrow. So looking forward to that. It's going to be... I've never seen my son in a school uniform because he went to an Educate Together and they didn't have to wear a uniform. So he's starting secondary school tomorrow. First time I'll see him in a uniform. I'm excited for him because I liked secondary school. I thought it was a lot more... you got a lot more freedom in secondary. Craig Bone said, what I don't want to see is players playing out of position all season because we're short due to a poor finish in the market. Exactly. So when we do that, Craig, I always ask myself the same question. Would we have signed this player in that position? And if the answer to that is no, then I feel like we're square pegs and round holes again. There's nothing wrong with having versatile players, from tactical perspective and whatnot. But if we're trying to sit here and say we can go 3 months with Endo at centre back or with Wirtz on the left side of attack, this is not the reason they were brought in. And yes, a bit of versatility is good, but not if it's because of squad depth. Then you're just cheaping out in the window, or you haven't got enough targets sorted out. So I agree on that 100%. So when I hear the manager say things like Gravenberch can play at centre-back, Endo can play at centre-back, well, yeah, but you didn't sign them to play at centre-back, did you? Ushin said, I don't like the thought of 140, 150 million pound for Isak, but considering what he's done to try push this move, I'd nearly pay it. 135, 140, ruthless striker. So I get where you're coming from. I also would like us to see this through to get him to the club because he's certainly done his part. But I do feel like it would be unfair of me not to talk about his own injury concerns. Like Carragher said it the other day, he's missed 30-something games over his 3 years at Newcastle. So we're bringing in a striker who's no doubt top quality, but a striker that has had his own injury concerns. Which is why I said when we brought in Ugo Ekitike, that did allay a lot of those concerns for me if we brought in Isak, because if Isak was injured, at least we'd have Ugo who could play through the middle. But I don't know. It's not really for me to say what the number is or isn't. I'd just rather we got him at this point. And if we had to pay whatever, pay it. Because here we are in the window now with maybe Elliott moving on, which bring the net spend down to 50 odd, maybe 60. So even if it's 150, that's 210. Other clubs have spent more than that in this window. So I agree. Get him in. Waddy said, I'm not buying Arne, Mick and Rick are going to undermine all the good early work in the transfer window. I'm certain more will be done before the first. I'm with you. But we don't have anything to really base that on other than belief, right? And I want to believe, mate. I'm with you in the belief, and everything you've said is more than fair. They've done great work in the window. And I have to believe for my own sanity that you're right. That there is a plan that we're going to see unfold. But let's just use Mark Gay here as an example. I don't see what the need is to delay there. I don't see how it benefits us to delay there. Unless it's to save 5 million. And at that point, that worries me. So for me, go get him now. Don't let him play for Palace on Thursday. Get it done. Bring him in. And then we'll see what happens with Isak, because that's the one that was never fully in our control. Stephen said, no plan B. I play striker. $3 transfer and $15 per week. That's pretty cheap, Stephen. It's pretty cheap. There was something I was trying to read out about no plan B, actually, and I couldn't find where I'd put it earlier on. Bear with me for a second. Where was it? Is this one? No. Oh, here's an interesting stat. Skybet put this out. How long it took each of these big six managers to win 2 consecutive Premier League games, right? So they go through a list and it's how long it took these managers to win back-to-back Premier League games. Arne Slot did it in 2 games, won the first 2. Pep Guardiola, 2 games. Thomas Frank, 2 games. Enzo Maresca, a little bit longer, 5 games. Super Mick Arteta, 9 games to win 2 in a row in the Prem. But Ruben Amorim, the Alex Ferguson reincarnate, hasn't done it yet. In 29 games. He hasn't won back-to-back Premier League games in 29 games. Don't know what else to say to that. 29 games, 28 points. That's Ruben Amorim. That's Manchester United's saviour. That makes me very happy as a Liverpool fan. What's this one? I noticed Gomez added long throw-ins to his repertoire. Feels like a highly underrated skill. Well, we've seen at the start of this season, Tyler, is it? We've seen long throw-ins be quite impactful at the start of this season. Some clubs utilising them quite well. And yeah, we had that throw-in specialist that was working with the club at one point as well. And I did see a marked improvement actually in our throw-ins at that point. But yeah, nothing wrong with lumping one into the box occasionally as well. So what did you guys think of the VAR decisions in the United game today? So let's talk about the first goal in the game. The penalty, actually, sorry. Let's talk about the penalty first. For me, was there a foul on the United player? Probably. But there was also a foul on the Fulham player right behind that was seemingly ignored. And they probably happened. I watched it back a few times. I think they happened at precisely the same time. So why was that? Why again is it benefiting an attacking team but nothing the other way? Surely that situation should have been one foul here, one foul there. Let's call it a wash and move on. But now United get the pen up. Fair enough. So then we go on a little bit further in the game and more VAR incidents that are farcical. United's goal. Ball comes in, clear as day. Lenny Yoro pushes Calvin in the back. Calvin Bassey goes to ground, and you can see the force of the push, clear as day. Nothing doing. Not enough contact. It's farcical. And this is only week 2. And remember in week 1, we had a blatant handball in the halfway line that apparently wasn't a handball and wasn't the denial of a goal scoring opportunity. 2 weeks in and the farce is already well and truly set in. VAR was a fucking disgrace again today. And it's not good enough. To me, as a football fan, VAR right across the board seemingly has been another way to manipulate a game of football. I thought I wanted it when it came in, but the way it's being utilised and the clear lack of consistency of decision, and this isn't an anti-any club, this affects every club across the league. It's been a mess, an absolute mess. And to have this technology to hand and still not get the decisions right, that's not good enough. Dean Douglas said, I see you've a load of tattoos, mate. Fancy a trip to Belfast to get tattooed by another red? Absolutely. I have half a sleeve to get finished, this one. I've got cover up I need to get from here up finished. So, yes, you don't need me to have many excuses to get to Belfast. I love Belfast, Dean. So, 100%. Would love to go up. Yeah, love to go up with the missus for a weekend over an international break or something and visit your good self. So, reach out if you can. If you can email to the contact at AnfieldAgenda.com, I'll get Connor to forward it on to me. But yeah, definitely, Dean. That'd be brilliant. We can video it and see me squirming if you want as well, mate. But thank you. That'd be awesome. Love Belfast. Said that a few times. Great city. Alvarez plan B for 120 million. Test at Leddy's resolve. There was a few murmurings of that. There was, a few murmurings of that over the past 24 hours. And I was even reading on the Echo earlier on. They had 3 of the lads and they were kind of, talking about their end of the window, what they do, what they think. And there was some chatter around Alvarez. Now, there was also an admission that he probably doesn't want to come back to the UK or to particularly not London in the UK. But I watched that Atleti game last night against Elche and he looked unhappy. Atleti don't look right. And I wouldn't be against it. At the very start of this whole window, mate, I said he was my #1 dream target because I think the way he plays is really suited to the way we play. So, yeah, I wouldn't say no if we tried to make it happen. What's this one? Oh, lads. So, we even have WWE heels wearing Isak 9 shirts in Liverpool colours. Mark just sent that to me as well. So, even the WWE want Isak to happen at this point, and who are we to argue with them? Get a broccoli tattoo. No. 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 No broccoli again. No. Incompetent refs, now corruption, said the cop father. Rodrygo substituted, threw his bottle and towel. Interesting. I will watch back those highlights, mate, when I finish this evening. Who was it that was wearing it? I can't really see from the picture. Yeah, it's a reverse picture, so I can't see who it was that was wearing the Isak 9. I'm sure Mark will probably let me know, but still interesting to see. Alan Thomas said, blatant push and shouldn't have stood as a goal, and they call us Liverpool. Oh, Alan, I know. And I know this comes across when I say it, Liverpool fan moans about United decision, but Calvin Bassey himself said it after the match. It was very, very clear. It wasn't a tiny little push. You could see Calvin Bassey's balance change as he was pushed forward. But yeah, not enough contact. But yeah, for the penalty, ignore the other foul and only give the one in one direction. It's a farce, like I've said. Not saying it's corrupt, not saying they're pro-United, but I am saying they're not good enough, the VAR officials. It's a shocker. Again, like the handball. Michael Oliver's supposed to be England's best, but he can't spot a blatant handball on the halfway line. And he couldn't spot an Odegaard blatant handball cuffing the ball back into his own direction. It's all just bollocks. Grim Reaper said, Craig, for me, it took till United at Anfield for 66 to show where his head was at. We were all clueless before as to what he would do. Yeah, certainly, I'll finish your comment, sorry. I wonder how long it'll be before Ibu starts showing cracks. Well, you could argue his head's not right now. Now, I feel unfair to say Konate's head's not there because of the contract situation. Because I don't know, again, how each person individually is grieving for Diogo. So I have to believe that that could be part of it as well, to be fair to everybody. So, but Konate hasn't been great. That's I think, fair. You're looking at all the reporting around last week's game, and there was a lot of reports to say that he wasn't great. Right, I have a couple of bits that have just dropped into my inbox, so I'm going to go record the late night news update. It was JD McDonough. It was an Irish wrestler, apparently, Mark said, called JD McDonough. So there we go. Oh, there was a super chat came in just before I finish up. I don't want to miss this one. Jason, 70, thank you, sir. Said, if we don't get replacements for Diaz and Diogo, tie down Konate and or bring in Gay, then we have not strengthened their squad. Watching from Ireland. I agree with you, my man. It's weird saying that, Jason, because I don't have any problem with any player we did sign. Very good signings. And if we filled out the squad with a couple more, it would be an incredible window. But like you've rightly said, without replacements for Diaz, Diogo, without the situation resolved for the Konate's contract or Gay, it's not been a successful window. It's been a what could have been window. But, again, as many people have correctly pointed out, we do still have time, and we got to believe that there is a method to all this madness. So let's see. Tomorrow, we'll have a news video out at about 3:30. I will be here at 6:45 for the watch along. I'm so excited for it. We get to have 2 games in a week, Monday, Sunday, and then the transfer window shuts the day after, so we'll have a stream as well on transfer deadline day twice. We'll have one leading up to the end of the window at 7, and then we'll have another one later that night. Thank you guys so much for another fun stream. Always appreciate you coming in and giving up your time. Tomorrow's a big game. I'm nervous, excited, but I look forward to sharing it with you guys as always. I'll see you at 6:45 tomorrow for the watch along. If you'd like to submit your player ratings, remember to, oh, wrong one, Craig. Remember to join the Anfield Agenda WhatsApp by scanning the QR code, and I will see you tomorrow. Have a good one. Much love.